Where the heart finds home, the golden wheat stretched endlessly in every direction. Swaying like an ocean under the late afternoon sun, Emma Rose had been running barefoot through these fields since dawn, her feet tough from years of walking the hard-packed earth of her father's farm. But today was different. Today she wasn't coming back. Her simple cotton dress, once white but now stained with dust and grass, caught the wind as she moved through the grain. Behind her, somewhere beyond the rolling hills, lay the farm where she had spent 19 years of her life. Ahead of her was nothing but uncertainty and the fading hope that somewhere in this vast prairie she might find peace. The sun was beginning its slow descent toward the horizon when she heard the sound of hoofbeat. Emma Rose stopped running and turned, her heart hammering against her ribs. Through the golden haze of evening light, a rider approached on a dark horse, moving with the easy grace of someone who had spent his life in the saddle. That as he drew closer, she could see he was young, maybe 25, with sun-weathered skin and eyes the color of summer sky. His hat was pulled low against the glare, but she could see the concern in his expression as he slowed his horse to a walk. "Miss, are you all right?" His voice was deep and gentle, with the careful respect of a man who had been raised to protect women, not harm them. "It's going to be dark soon, and this isn't safe country for a lady alone." Emma Rose wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly aware of how she must look, barefoot, dusty, with tears she thought had dried still streaking her cheeks. "I'm fine," she said, but her voice shook with exhaustion and something deeper than fear. The cowboy dismounted with fluid motion, his boots hitting the ground softly. "I'm Jack Harrison," he said, keeping his distance but ready to help. "I work for the Double H Ranch, just over that ridge. My boss sent me out looking for strays, but I think I found something more important." "I don't need help," Emma Rose said, though even as the words left her mouth, she knew they weren't true. Her feet were bleeding, her throat was parched, and the prairie stretched endless in every direction. Jack Harrison studied her face with eyes that seemed to see too much. "What's your name, miss?" "Emma Rose," she whispered, then louder. "Emma Rose Miller." Recognition flickered across Jack's features. "Miller, you wouldn't be old Henry Miller's daughter, would you? From the wheat farm about 15 miles east." Emma Rose's stomach clenched with fear. If this cowboy knew her father, he might take her back. He might think it was the right thing to do. "Please," she said, backing away a step. "Don't make me go back there." Something in her voice stopped Jack cold. He had heard that tone before, in the voices of broken horses and wounded animals. It was the sound of something that had been hurt so deeply it no longer trusted kindness. "Nobody's making you do anything," he said quietly. "But it's going to be cold tonight, and there are wolves in these parts. At least let me get you somewhere safe." Emma Rose looked at the vast expanse of prairie around them, then at the man standing beside his horse. Everything about him spoke of strength and steadiness, the way he held himself, the gentleness in his voice, the fact that he hadn't moved any closer despite her obvious distress. "Why would you help me?" she asked. "You don't know me." Jack was quiet for a moment, looking out over the golden fields. "My mother ran away from home when she was about your age," he said finally. "Different reasons, maybe, but she was just as scared and just as alone. A stranger helped her then. I reckon it's my turn to pay that kindness forward." The sun was sinking lower now, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold that made the wheat fields glow like burnished copper. Rose felt the fight go out of her as exhaustion took its place. "I can't go back," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I can't." "Then you don't have to," Jack said simply. "But you need food and water and a safe place to sleep. My boss is a good man, fair and decent. He's helped folks before who needed a fresh start." Emma Rose remembered the stories she had heard about the Double H Ranch. People said the owner was honorable, that he treated his workers well and asked no questions about their past. It was better than sleeping under the stars with wolves howling in the distance. "All right," she said finally. Jack smiled, the first real smile she had seen in months. "Good. Can you ride?" Emma Rose nodded. She had learned on her father's old plow horse, though it had been years since she was allowed such freedom. Jack moved to his horse's side and cupped his hands to help her up. "This is Thunder," he said as she settled behind the saddle. "He's gentle as a lamb, but he's got good sense about danger." As Jack swung up in front of her, Emma Rose had to resist the urge to wrap her arms around his waist. Instead, she gripped the back of the saddle, feeling the warmth of the horse beneath her and the solid presence of the man in front of her. They rode in comfortable silence as the sun painted the world in gold and amber. The rhythm of Thunder's gait was soothing after the jarring pace of her desperate run. And for the first time in hours, Emma Rose felt her breathing slow to something approaching normal. Can I ask what you're running from? Jack said quietly, his voice barely audible over the soft thud of hoofbeats. Emma Rose closed her eyes, feeling the evening wind cool against her face. My father, she said finally, he's not a kind man, especially when he's been drinking, and he drinks more every year. She felt Jack's shoulders tense slightly. Did he hurt you? The question was asked so gently that Emma Rose felt tears threaten again. Not the way you might think, she said carefully. He never laid a hand on me, but there are other ways to break a person. Jack nodded slowly. Words can cut deeper than fists sometimes. He told me I was worthless. Emma Rose found herself saying that no decent man would ever want me, that I was lucky he kept me fed and housed, he said. He said he had a right to make decisions about my life, about who I married and when, and he was making decisions you couldn't live with. He arranged a marriage, Emma Rose whispered, to Cyrus Jameson. Jack's entire body went rigid. Cyrus Jameson, that old snake who runs the trading post, you know him. Every cowboy within 50 miles knows Cyrus Jameson. He's twice your age and meaner than a rattlesnake. He's buried 3 wives already. Jack's voice was hard now, angry in a way that should have frightened Emma Rose but somehow didn't. My father said it was a good match, Emma Rose said hollowly. Said Jameson had money and I should be grateful for the opportunity. Jesus, Jack muttered, then caught himself. Sorry, miss, but that's not a marriage. That's a death sentence. They crested a small hill, and the Double H Ranch spread before them in the golden evening light. It was everything the stories had promised: well-maintained buildings, healthy livestock, and an air of prosperity built on honest work rather than greed. The ranch house was large but not ostentatious, painted white with a wide porch that wrapped around 3 sides. Smoke curled from the chimney, and warm light glowed in the windows. It looked like what a home should be, welcoming and safe. That's the main house, Jack said, pointing. My boss lives there with his housekeeper, Mrs. Patterson. They're good people, Emma Rose, they'll help you. As they rode into the yard, an older man emerged from the house. He was tall and lean, with silver threading through dark hair and eyes that missed nothing. This, Emma Rose realized, must be Jack's boss. Evening, Jack, the man said as they dismounted. His gaze took in Emma Rose's appearance, the torn dress, the bare feet, the obvious distress without judgment. Looks like you found more than strays. This is Emma Rose Miller, Jack said, helping her down from the horse. She needs help, boss. She's running from a bad situation. The older man nodded slowly. I'm Thomas Harrison, Jack's older brother and owner of this spread. Miss Miller, you look like you could use a meal and a safe place to rest. Emma Rose felt tears prick her eyes at the simple kindness in his voice. I don't want to be any trouble, sir. No trouble at all, Thomas said firmly. Mrs. Patterson, he called toward the house. A round, motherly woman appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on her apron. Her sharp eyes took in the situation immediately, and her expression softened with maternal concern. This young lady needs looking after, Thomas told her. Emma Rose Miller, this is Mrs. Patterson, who keeps us all in line. Oh, you poor dear, Mrs. Patterson said, hurrying down the steps. Look at those feet. Come inside this instant. I'll get some warm water and salve, and then we'll get some food into you. As Mrs. Patterson fussed over her, leading her toward the house, Emma Rose looked back at Jack. He was watching her with those summer sky eyes, his expression gentle and reassuring. Thank you, she said quietly. You're safe now, he replied. That's what matters. Over the following days, Emma Rose began to understand what safety felt like. Mrs. Patterson tended her wounded feet and gave her clean clothes that actually fit. Thomas Harrison asked no probing questions but made it clear she was welcome to stay as long as she needed. And Jack became her constant, quiet presence. He would appear each evening after finishing his work, sometimes bringing wildflowers he had found on the range, sometimes just sitting on the porch steps talking about everything and nothing. He told her about his childhood, about learning to ride before he could properly walk, about his dreams of having his own ranch someday. What about you? He asked one evening, as they sat watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. What did you dream about before things got bad? Emma Rose was quiet for a long moment, remembering the girl she had been before her father's drinking got worse, before the harsh words and impossible expectations wore her down. I used to dream about having a garden, she said finally. A real garden, with flowers and vegetables and maybe an apple tree. Somewhere I could watch things grow and know that I helped make something beautiful. Jack smiled. That's a good Dream beautiful things should be tended and protected, not crushed under someone's boot. Something in his voice made Emma Rose look at him more closely. Jack, I've been thinking, he said, not meeting her eyes, about your situation, about what comes next. Emma Rose felt her stomach clench with familiar fear. Are you saying I need to leave? God, no, Jack said quickly, turning to face her. I'm saying maybe there's a way for you to stay permanently if you want to. He took a deep breath, as if gathering courage. Emma Rose, I know we haven't known each other long. I know you're still healing from what you've been through, but I care about you more than I should, maybe, but there it is. Emma Rose felt her heart begin to race. I'm not much, Jack continued, his voice earnest. Just a cowboy with some savings and a dream of my own land someday. But I'm honest, and I'm gentle, and I swear to you that I would never raise my voice to you, let alone my hand. You'd be my partner, not my property. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small wild rose, its petals soft pink in the evening light. I know it's not a ring, he said, offering it to her, but maybe it could be a promise. That if you'll have me, I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you get that garden you dreamed about, and whatever else your heart desires. Emma Rose took the rose, feeling its silky petals against her fingers. Around them, the prairie stretched endless and golden, but it no longer looked empty or frightening. It looked full of possibility. You don't know me, she said softly. Not really. I might not be the person you think I am. I know enough, Jack said firmly. I know you're brave enough to run toward an uncertain future rather than accept a terrible one. I know you're kind. I've seen how you help Mrs. Patterson in the kitchen, how you gentle the horses when you think nobody's watching. I know you're strong enough to survive what you've survived and still have hope left. He reached out and gently touched her hand where it held the rose. Most importantly, I know that when I look at you, I see my future. Not because I want to own you or control you, but because I want to build something with you, something good and true and lasting. Emma Rose looked at this man who had rescued her from the prairie, who had offered her safety without asking for anything in return. She thought about her father's house, where love was conditional and kindness was rare. Then she looked at the ranch around them, where she had been welcomed and protected by people who barely knew her. Yes, she said quietly. Then louder, yes, Jack Harrison, I'll marry you. Jack's smile was like sunrise, bright and full of promise. Really? Really? Emma Rose laughed, and the sound was full of joy she had forgotten she could feel. But I want that garden you mentioned. A big one, with roses and apple trees and room for vegetables. You'll have the biggest, most beautiful garden in 3 counties, Jack promised, leaning closer. Whatever you want to plant, we'll plant. Whatever you want to grow, we'll grow. As the last light of day faded into purple twilight, Jack kissed her gently, a kiss that tasted like freedom and felt like coming home. Around them, the prairie sang with the voices of evening insects and night birds, a symphony of life and hope and new beginnings. Emma Rose had run barefoot through the wheat fields seeking escape, but she had found something far more precious. She had found a man who saw her worth, a family that welcomed her, and a future built on love rather than fear. The rose in her hand was already beginning to wilt, but it didn't matter. Tomorrow, Jack would help her plant a whole garden of roses that would bloom year after year. Roots growing deep in the soil of their shared life, petals opening to catch the morning sun of each new day they would face together. She was finally home.